automatically to live. It says you're live. So, hello, everyone. Hi, it's Diana Lowe of Blue Light Leadership and my wonderful teammate. I'll let you introduce yourself.
I'm Sandy Benz. I am also with Blue Light Leadership as a team leadership coach.
Yes, Sandy is amazing. She is our intact teams guru. We go to her for everything. So thank you for being here. We're excited to talk to you today about this really crucial skill. It's a set of skills that we're going to talk to you about how it can really change a trajectory of your career, really, or even your company if you own a company. So today, Sandy and I are going to be kicking off our first of 6 LinkedIn Lives, and we'll also post this on YouTube if you didn't get a chance to watch it, and there will also be some replays here. And today we're just going to talk for 20 minutes, and we're going to talk about, and this is really just to kick off for our group coaching session program, which we will be telling you a little bit more about. It'll be at the end of May. And yeah, this is just to kick off really that program and tell you a little bit about what each module is about, what we'll be coaching on, and get you, informed. And we really want this is really a dynamic LinkedIn Live. So we really want your feedback. If you have any questions, you can DM us or put it in the comments. So today, our session is what you don't know can hurt you. So we often hear what you don't know can't hurt you. But really, when it comes to your reputation in business and at work and as a leader, what you don't know, that self-awareness can hurt you. Sandy, what are your thoughts on that topic?
This is such an important topic because so many leaders that I have worked with, which I've worked with thousands of teams, the most important skill is being able to understand how you're coming across to others, how you're helping to invite feedback. So this whole idea of self-awareness is so important. And if you don't know how you're coming across, it really can hurt your reputation, like you said, Diana.
Yeah. And sometimes it's overtly hurting your reputation. And sometimes it's like secretly hurting your reputation where people go around you to do things. So today I want to invite you, if you're listening, and I want to ask Sandy, who do you think this is LinkedIn Live is best for?
So I've been thinking about the leaders who would really benefit from this topic. And these are leaders who are often results-driven leaders who need help motivating their remote teams. So these are people who they know they're responsible for the results, but somehow they're not getting the most out of their people and they don't quite know why. Another is the managers who are really looking to build relationships to accomplish their goals. They want to work better with their people. They just don't feel like they may be connecting as much. And so self-awareness will help here as well. And then the third is leaders who are finding that they have more difficult interactions and conversations, and that they don't know quite how to handle them or how to keep the people motivated and engaged to accomplish those goals. So those difficult conversations and interactions, no one likes them, but if you can think about how you're coming across in those conversations, like how you give feedback, how you might be receiving feedback, that's going to go a long way toward building trust as a leader.
This is true. And what I find, and especially I can imagine you as well working with teams, is that we have managers, right? So you're managing processes. Maybe you're managing people. We know we don't manage people, but we lead people. And so we're more tactile. We're doing the thing. And then as what I notice is as leaders move up in their companies or in their organizations and their groups, really it's less about the doing and more about how they're working with the people. And that's really what our group coaching program in May will be focusing on, like how are we working with our people but also driving results through our people. So let's dive in, shall we? Let's talk about it. So we came up with a really great framework for you to follow along at home, or hopefully you're not driving, but wherever you're listening to us now. And really, it's about the first thing we're going to talk about is mindset. So what is the mindset we need to have when we're thinking about our reputation as leaders? What is our leadership philosophy? And that really, it adds to how we work and our behavior. So tell us, before we go on about mindset, Sandy, can you tell us a little bit about self-awareness? Because I think any good leader starts with self-awareness.
Exactly, Diana. So the self-awareness is really defined as it's really about being aware of the behavior that you demonstrate. It's about your strengths and your limitations and the impact you have on others. Now, that's a concise way of putting it, but another way that we like to look at it, Diana, is you talked about reputation, but it's also about building trust too, right? And so people who understand you, who know what you're thinking, who feel comfortable with you, they build more trust. You end up having a reputation of being a leader that they can count on for anything. So it's not just a reputation for a leader who just gets things done and puts people, blows them away in the dust. you know. And so self-awareness is really about how you come across to others and how that impact is having an effect in the team or organization.
I love that you said how you come across with others, because this is not something that we can always calibrate
Mhm.
by ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We have to calibrate our self awareness within our environment. Now, it sounds a little counterintuitive.
Mhm.
However, Sandy and I know, after doing hundreds and thousands of assessments of people, rating themselves on their own self awareness, we know through the results, through the research, and through the assessments that people are not always as self aware as
Yeah.
they believe they're
Oh,
themselves to be.
yeah. In fact, Diana, I got to tell you, I just was reading this article this morning from Harvard Business Review that said that 90% of people in the workplace feel like they are self aware. But in reality, after doing these assessments, they found out that 33% are actually self aware. I was blown away by that. But then I thought, well, wait a minute. I've seen so many examples, and we can talk a little more about this today, is what it looks like when people are not self-aware, but they think they are. There was this one situation that I was at work and someone was coming across very abrupt, and they started getting out of their chair and kind of expressing themselves with their arms flailing in the air, and people were intimidated. And then they sat down, and I talked to them later, and they said they had no idea that they were standing up, flailing their arms. They had no idea. They
It
were
was like blacked out. It
Yes,
was, oh my
they
goodness.
they were having an out-of-body moment, Diana. It was crazy. So that's an example of not being self-aware. An extreme one, but an example.
Do you know what happens a lot though when people have that strength of competitiveness? I notice that too. When
Yeah.
people now, competitiveness is a beautiful strength to live within. It
Mhm.
really certainly helps move, progress goals, companies, deadlines, whatever, whatever it is. But sometimes at the desire to be right or the desire to win,
Mhm.
we forget that there are people in this process and that we have to calibrate. So that's where I see that lack of awareness with that strength of competitiveness. And, if we overuse a strength, it can sometimes become a weakness. So we just have to be aware of that.
Yes,
One
exactly.
time, Sandy, I was told, speaking of using strengths overly, uh, and lack of awareness, I was told that I was too helpful. They said, "You're too helpful." So I said, "Interesting point," because they meant it in a way that was not enabling. They didn't want me to enable people. However, I want to be helpful. So I felt like that was okay. It was good feedback. I heard it. I sat
Interesting.
on it, sat in my heart for a second. I was like, I'm okay being too helpful, because
No, I
sometimes,
just oh, go ahead. And
no,
sometimes
sometimes we just, you got to own what you want to own. That's it.
exactly. And by the way, can I just say that you just shared and demonstrated an example of self-awareness where you received that feedback well, which is where we're going to next now. So we talked about the mindset and why this is so important, productivity, good employee relationships, and good results through people. But now, what do you want to talk about, Diane? What's the next part of our framework? You said mindset is the first part.
Yes, I love this. And it's so true. It's to be able to have that skill, right? Of actually knowing what self-awareness is for you. So the next part of our framework is skill set. So what are the key behaviors that we need for actually knowing if we're self-aware or not? Because let's face it, I actually saw another it was another article or research that said at everybody works with at least one person who's completely not aware of themselves. And I
Mhm.
was like, we like to think we're self aware, but are we always? So it's really what are the skills, Sandy? Tell me, like, what are the key behaviors? Let's
So
talk about that.
well, yeah, this is, I think, a key part of this webinar here today, this LinkedIn Live, is the best way we can do this and share these skills is kind of show or identify what it looks like when people are lacking this competence of self-awareness and when people have this or demonstrate this competence. Because you could have the competence, but if you're not showing it and people are not seeing it, then it's almost like you don't have it. So some examples of people lacking this this competence may be that have you ever been in meetings where people are they're talking too much in meetings and they don't realize how much they're coming across as dominating the meeting and shutting others down? Or you might notice in meetings that people are kind of rolling their eyes or looking sideways to their coworkers as if they feel like no one's watching. you know, those are some examples. It's also
And
failure.
we see that on Zoom. Sorry, we also see that on Zoom,
Yeah,
where when somebody is zoomed out and they're just like, you know what, they don't want to be here. We see it on their face, right? We see it
yeah,
in their actions and their lack of being present. So,
yeah. Thank you for mentioning that because this is about remote teams, and we think that in Zoom we can get away with a lot, but people still pick up on a lot of things in
yeah,
Zoom. You're right.
t- totally.
Another, I think, and tell me what you think about this, Diana, is another example of people lacking this competence is people who either don't ask for feedback on specific things, or they don't receive the feedback well when they get it.
Yes, I have seen this so much where they'll ask for feedback, but even if they get really good feedback, they don't do anything with it. So then the person goes, well, why are you asking me for the feedback? This happens in a lot of company cultures, organizations. They're like, oh, tell us, tell us, tell us. And then if it's rotten to the core, the culture's rotten to the core, what do we see? We see people getting penalized for giving good feedback that could help the company.
That's
Now,
true.
that's just a terrible culture that doesn't value really what people are saying. But
Mhm.
for leaders, the thing is, if we own the company, we don't get the feedback necessarily that we want.
Yeah,
Or if we get that feedback and we don't do anything with it, people just stop giving it.
right. And worse, if you ask for feedback and then you don't respond well to the feedback, you get defensive, people will learn, don't ever give feedback again. And then you end up having some blind spots. People never want to tell you what they're noticing. And then your self awareness goes down the tank even more.
Oh, and that's the worst. I
Yeah.
think when people are it, I see this, and it's like an unspoken thing that when people really don't want to deal with you, they work around you. And I think that's probably one of the biggest marks of lack of self-awareness,
Yeah.
that you're not noticing that people are working around you to get things done because they either see you as a bottleneck, or they don't like
Right.
working with you because
Yeah.
you're on different pages.
Exactly. So, so I think a lot of people can relate to seeing this in meetings and seeing this on Zoom. So I'm going to ask that maybe let's now segue to, well, what do people look like when they have this competence and how can they learn it? Because I'm looking at our time and we have about 6 minutes left.
I love
And
it.
so, yeah, so how would you describe people who have this competence, Diana? What does it look like, especially when it comes to giving and receiving feedback?
I love this. I think the people who do this the best, the leaders who do this the best, they have trusted people around them who can give them the hard feedback. And
Mm,
they are not afraid to give them the hard feedback. They
mhm.
know that if I have to tell you something, it's with the spirit of care, because I care for the company, I care for the goals, I care for the department, I care for the people, all the cares.
Yeah.
So typically, what you see here is people who are self aware, in my experience, they are constant. It's a constant communication with the people around them of how
Mhm.
they're doing, but not just like, hey, how am I doing today? It's more about like asking good, like valuable questions and listening to what people are saying, and then taking that and doing something with that feedback. How
Yeah.
about you?
I love that. In fact, I was reading something about how a way to ask for feedback, because oftentimes people will say, well, how do you think I'm doing? Is this, and it's less about you as a leader. It's more about the specific situation that you're dealing with. For example, how do you feel our staff meetings are going? Is there anything we could do to improve the interaction? Is there anything that that I could maybe do to help support people more effectively in their roles, like maybe some one-on-ones to kind of talk about what's working and what they need from the team or me to help them. I mean, specific questions like that really encourage people to give more feedback. If it's too open-ended, they're probably going to go, oh, everything's fine. Yeah, it's good.
Exactly. It's good. I'm not going to rock the boat. I'm not going to, because most people don't want to rock the boat. They want to like make sure that, they're creating some sort of harmony in the working environment, remote or not remote. So
Right.
that's the key. I think asking those specific questions, but also I think it's making it not about the person. So
Yeah.
when we make it about like, if you're asking like, how am I doing specifically? How do I answer that? Right?
Yeah.
How do I? So it's more about like, how do you need to deliver or how do you need to receive information so that I can make sure that I'm giving it to you the best way? Or
Exactly.
it's really being inquisitive and using, and for me, that's self awareness. That's really understanding others around us and understanding I'm different, right?
Diana, I really like how you said you reiterated the part about how it's not about you, it's about the situation. I just remember giving feedback to a boss a while back. It's never easy giving feedback to your own boss. But I started with, I need to let you know something that will help me be more effective in my role. And then I started asking for what I need. And I didn't start off saying you this, or, it was more like in order for me to be effective, I need this. And it worked out really well. But here's the interesting thing is she was not as receptive to feedback a while back. This is like years ago, tons of years ago. And she, it really scared me. So let's talk about receiving feedback, because oftentimes people get emotionally hijacked. They
Yes.
get defensive and they don't realize how they're coming across when they're receiving feedback. So Diana, from your perspective, what is like a tip or two where people could where you see people demonstrating awareness in how they receive feedback?
Yeah, I love this because everyone's so different, right? And when I think of like receiving or giving communication, I always think of the disc like that. My mind always goes to disc.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
if you're a high I, don't, and that means like you're a fast talker, you're people oriented.
Mhm,
If you if a high I receives feedback in a public place with
mhm.
people around, creating them to look in anybody's mind as bad or reject or something like that, that's not going to fly. So I always say any sort of feedback should happen in the place that the person needs or will hear it the best.
Good point.
So, is it on a phone call? Is it a face to face? Do you need to go and tell them in person? I
Right.
mean, we are focused on a remote environment, but even though we're remote, doesn't mean that we don't have access to people like
Exactly.
physically, right? So, I
Yeah.
think it's thinking about how, for the person giving the feedback, is thinking about what's the environment that's the best for this person so
Mhm.
that you can manage your own emotions. That's your own self awareness. But
Exactly.
also, when I'm receiving feedback, it's, I think one part is how it's set up. But
Mhm.
even if it's set up with barbs and a lot of sharp pieces of sharp words, that
Yeah.
hit us,
Yeah.
sometimes it's good to just like sit there with that
Mhm. Mhm.
and try to hear what they're saying as opposed to react to the emotion. Now, that's not easy.
No,
That's
in fact, but here's one thing that will help to make it easier is think of feedback as a gift. Now, I know that sounds like a
I,
cliche, but it is a gift, and it helps us to prevent those blind spots. Here's what I would recommend also, in addition to what you just said, Diana, is if you feel yourself getting a little hijacked and you're getting defensive inside, just breathe, pause,
I love that.
continue listening, and saying, "Tell me more. This is good information." Even if you don't feel like saying that, just say it. At least act receptive at first. And the more that you listen, the more you'll understand. And then you'll realize that this person is trying to help you. They're not trying to hurt you. And then you see their good intentions. So always assume good intentions.
And that's true. And one thing I love about this, and I mentioned it early, Sandy, is that you can hear the feedback and you may not even agree with it,
Hmm.
but it is worth listening to
Yeah.
because you might learn something about yourself. You might learn actually, like for example, helpful is important part of who I am.
Yes.
So whether this person likes it or not, I'm going to stick to that. Or you might say, actually, you know what? In this situation, maybe I wasn't being helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe I need to think about it.
Or
So,
yeah, or it could be that you're helpful, which people appreciate, but maybe too much of a good thing, maybe too much of a good thing, So I mean, so maybe tamper it down a bit. Who knows? But with feedback, specific feedback, people can help you kind of navigate through how to adjust our behaviors. So Diana, I
I love
realize
that.
it's 20 after the hour now. So where do we so the third part of our framework, we talked about mindset, the why is it so important? Skill set, which is the key behaviors. And the last part is get, set, go, meaning
Yes,
what can you do to move forward? What kind of actions can you take going forward in this next week to start practicing or learning some more?
I love this. Can I say get a coach? Is that too obvious? Is that too obvious? So,
That's okay. It's a good
so,
point. But how about like,
so
yeah, what else would work?
So there are a lot of things that you can do. And I would say keep it simple. We have more than enough things to do. But when you're asking for feedback on your leadership, on culture, on how things are run, like Sandy had mentioned, running meetings, make sure to ask really pointed and powerful questions. So not just like, what did you like the meeting? What kind of answer are you going to get there? What should we do more of in this meeting? How can we spend less time in meetings?
Perfect.
Or how can we do this differently? So that is a point of, it doesn't sound like self-awareness, but
Mhm.
that's a point of self-awareness because that allows you to really listen to what other people are saying and then calibrate it with within yourself.
Yes. And may I add, in addition to what you just
Please.
said about giving feedback or asking for feedback, and then when you give feedback, to summarize, make it safe for others who speak up. We haven't even touched on this topic much, but it's so important is that idea of psychological safety. So making it safe for people to have a voice and give good, candid information without any sense of, they're going to get in trouble for it.
And sometimes I have to say, Sandy, that's brilliant because sometimes leaders have no awareness that that is even the environment for other people in their company.
Exactly.
So that is a whole nother webinar topic. I love it.
Well, I'll tell you what, in the meantime, could I just suggest one thing? I was thinking of this morning, a practice opportunity for anyone who's listening who wants to practice your self-awareness skills right away. And this is it. Imagine that you're in it doesn't matter if it's a remote meeting or even an in-person meeting, but imagine you're watching the others' behaviors. You're looking at others and how they're interacting. You're seeing if they're too quiet. Are they contributing too much? Are they, what are their facial expressions? What's their body language? Are they looking really relaxed? Kind of, are they tuning out? They looking the other way?
I
Are
love
they
it.
tuned in? All these things are part of the self-awareness. How do you come across on Zoom, or how do you come across in person? Watch others, and then more importantly, watch yourself and practice how you come across. That's my one tip for this week.
I love that. Get, set, go.
Exactly.
So we are here to support you. We are excited. Today we talked about self-awareness. Thank you so much for your insight, Sandy. Sandy it has so much experience. She has so much wisdom. I can't wait to do the next we have 5 more LinkedIn lives to do together. So our next one will be understand others to master your conversation, and that will be on April 12th. I'm going to see if I can get this little tool to I did it. I think I did it. It popped up. So you mark that on your calendars. We will have that on our Blue Light Leadership page. And we're excited to be here to support you as a growing leader. We're excited to support you as a business owner and to support you as an organization growing, trying to create the best culture you can. So thank you so much for being here today. If you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to Diana Lowe. It's Diana E. Lowe on LinkedIn, and Sandy.
Mhm. Also, yeah, at Sandy at Blue Light. I'm sorry. Which? I'm sorry. I didn't think about that. I was like, wait, there's so many ways to reach us.
I know there's so many ways to contact us. You can DM. They can
Oh,
DM
yeah,
you on LinkedIn. I think
yeah.
that's probably the easiest
There you go.
way.
LinkedIn, yeah, and you just look up Sandy Benz, and you'll see me. And I'm in this. Just look, yeah, you'll find me. I'm sure.
You'll find her. I know. I know we'll find you. So thank you so much. Thank you everybody for being here, and we'll see you next time. If you have any questions, feel free to let us know, and we'll see you on the 12th. Bye.
Take care. See ya.